Hi, it's Jon Dario from the Retail Management Formula, and welcome to the Personal Branding Workshop. Have you ever given serious consideration to the concept of a personal brand? Perhaps you've heard the phrase and you've dismissed it as a hokey gimmick that has no real tangible value. Well, would you say that about the brand of a major corporation like Coca-Cola? If a brand can be that powerful for companies, why can't a brand be equally powerful for individuals? In fact, a personal brand can be very impactful by helping to define us as professionals and as leaders. And a personal brand can be highly effective by letting others know what they can expect from us and by giving us a reputation to live up to ourselves, thereby guiding our actions and behaviors. In this workshop, I'll explain more about the power of a brand and the benefits of a personal brand. Most of the workshop will be dedicated to your own self-discovery as you work through the steps of building and establishing your personal brand. I'll guide you through the process. There'll be a number of resources you'll need to download. It's okay if you haven't downloaded those already. You'll have a chance to do so later. For now, let's go ahead and get started on your personal branding adventure. Let's start by answering one basic question. What is a brand? The Cambridge Free English Dictionary defines brand as a type of product made by a particular company. Other dictionaries give very similar definitions, but we've come to understand a brand as being much bigger than just the type of product made by a company. Consider the dictionary's second definition of a brand, a symbol on the skin of an animal that shows it belongs to someone. To be clearer, the brand put on an animal is permanently burned into the animal's skin with a hot iron. Combining these two definitions, we begin to get the picture of a true brand being much deeper than just a name or a label. Consider the following examples: Nike, Coca-Cola, American Express, Federal Express. Chances are that as soon as you heard each of these company names, you immediately felt something about them. Undoubtedly, you immediately envisioned the company's brand symbol. You probably even reflexively thought about each brand's core message. Nike, just do it. Coca-Cola, the real thing. American Express, don't leave home without it. Federal Express, when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight. So just saying the name of these companies invokes a clear mental image of what the companies stand for. The strength of these images is due to the degree to which the companies have burned their images into your brain. This burning happens through two important actions. First, the brand strength is a function of how well the company has issued clear and consistent communication about what the company stands for. Nike stands for an attitude of making things happen. Just do it. They communicate this message through advertising, through messaging on their products, and through the athletes they choose to sponsor. The brand strength is also a function of how consistently the company delivers an experience that matches their communication of what they stand for. Nike's brand strength is either enhanced or reduced by their product's ability to support the superior needs of top athletes. How you personally feel about a brand depends on two things. First, it depends on how favorably you view what the company stands for. In other words, if you view the action-oriented message of just do it favorably, you'll tend to view the Nike brand favorably because it so closely is tied to that philosophy. If, on the other hand, you view just do it as a rash and selfish way to live life, then you'll tend to have a negative view of Nike. Second, your feeling about a brand depends on your personal experience with the company and how consistent that experience is with the company's message. For example, if you have relied on Nike tennis shoes to help you maximize your side-to-side lateral movement across the court, and the shoes have prematurely worn bare on the outside of the soles, you'll have a negative view of the Nike brand. So, there's a risk and a reward for a company in establishing a strong brand. Stand for something that people don't buy into, and a company risks alienating its potential customers. Fail to live up to its brand commitment, and a company also risks alienating its customers. The stronger the brand image, the greater the risk of not living up to it. But let's think about it a bit deeper. What is the brand message and logo for sneaker company New Balance? How about the brand message and logo for Royal Crown Cola? What about Diners Club? or Purolator Courier? Chances are these are a bit less clear in your mind than our original 4 brands. The reality is that no company is going to satisfy every person all of the time. Otherwise, there would only be one company for each product category. And the companies that make the bold statements about what they stand for are generally more successful than the companies that don't. Let's consider another set of examples of brand image. This time, let's look at a series of brands that are all within the same product category, considering the following logos or symbols: BMW, Dodge Ram, Volvo, Honda. Upon seeing these logos, is it instantly clear in your mind what each brand stands for? Without need for any additional explanation, does the logo itself tell you what the brand wants you to experience from its product? BMW, the ultimate driving machine, a fun and performance-based driving experience. Dodge trucks are Ram tough, a heavy-duty vehicle that can take a beating and keep on going. Volvo, the pinnacle of safety and security in case of accident or hazardous conditions. Honda, reliable and comfortable performance at a reasonable and affordable price. Each of these automakers has a strong brand image. Each automaker has established a brand image around an aspect of vehicle ownership that they are particularly good at. And each of the brand images appeals to a different customer or to a different buying situation. None is right or wrong, they're just different. And it takes all of them to meet the varying needs and expectations of the car buying public. So let's explore another question. Why is a good brand so powerful? Think about a brand that you're particularly passionate about. Are you more loyal to that brand? If presented with a choice between the brand you like and an alternative, are you more likely to select the brand you feel good about? Will you even go out of your way to purchase their products rather than products of their competitors? And are you willing to pay more for that brand because it does a better job of satisfying your needs or wants than other options? Do you tell family and friends about the brand and how good its products are? And as word spreads, does that add to the success of the brand? These are all very powerful benefits to having a strong brand. Let's summarize this general brand discussion by saying that a brand is really the promise of an experience that a buyer will get from using a company's product. Okay, let's move on to our next question. How does all of this translate to the concept of a personal brand? Just as a brand is the promise of the experience a buyer will get from interacting with a company or a product, a personal brand is the promise of the experience one will get from interacting with a person. To illustrate the example of a personal brand, let's take a look at some famous actors. What kind of experience would you expect from a movie starring one of the following celebrities? A movie starring Adam Sandler, a movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio, or a movie starring Samuel L. Jackson. I'm guessing that the image of Adam Sandler instantly presented the promise of a goofy, funny, irreverent movie. The image of Leo DiCaprio gave the promise of an intense, thought-provoking drama, and the image of Samuel L. Jackson gave the promise of a high-energy action blockbuster. These actors have burned their brand image into our minds in the same way that Federal Express, Nike, and BMW have. They've clearly communicated what they stand for, though they have done so more in their actions than in any sort of direct statement to us about what they stand for. They have delivered their promise with frequency, each making many movies over the course of their careers. And they've consistently delivered with a high-quality product which is in line with their promise. Just like the auto industry, it takes many types of actors to satisfy the varying interests of the movie-going public. Actors can be well known for a particular niche they fill, and the best actors are synonymous with the style or movie type they have perfected. A personal brand is the promise we make to our employer, our employees, and everybody else we work with of a particular experience or value we'll deliver. Let's not take that word promise lightly here. How do you feel towards people who consistently live up to their promises? Of course, you respect them and trust them, right? And how do you feel towards people who often don't follow through on their promises? Exactly the opposite, right? You do not respect them, you do not trust them. And let's face it, a promise of a particular experience from an individual is a heck of a lot more personal than the promise of an experience from a sneaker or a soda. Okay, so we can accept that a personal brand is serious stuff. But let's be clear with one thing. Personal branding is not about self-promotion. Personal branding is about enhancing your own effectiveness. There are 3 key ways that happens. When others know what they can expect from you, they're more likely to include you in projects and tasks where you'll be most successful. That leads to a virtuous cycle of deepening confidence in you and increased effectiveness by you. Also, when members of the team know how you'll react and know what decision you would make in certain situations, they'll be more likely to exhibit behaviors which lead to desirable reactions from you, and they'll be more likely to make decisions which are consistent with the decisions you would make. In this way, your personal brand leads the team to behaviors and results that you wish to drive. When others know what to expect from you, they're more likely to give you favorable opportunities that fall into your area of expertise. Those opportunities will allow you to improve your experience and your skills even more. Perhaps the biggest benefit that comes from having a strong self-brand is it gives you a true north to consistently guide your actions. The more deep-rooted your reputation, the more responsibility you feel to yourself and to others to maintain that reputation. In this way, a strong self-brand becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy for consistency and reliability, and that makes you a more effective manager and leader. Now that we understand what a personal brand is and why it's so important, let's move on and begin the process of building your personal brand. There are 5 steps to creating your personal brand. I'll use the remainder of this video to guide you through them. The steps are: 1. Explore your personality. 2. Analyze your leadership profile. 3. Determine your specialties. 4. Identify recurring themes. And 5. Build your commitment statement and axiom. This is where you'll need the resources I spoke about at the beginning of the video. The resources are actually 6 separate sheets that are available as a single PDF file. If you've not already downloaded the file, please pause the video and go to the address on your screen, retailmanagementformula.com/personal branding, and click on the Personal Branding Resources link to download the PDF file. Step 1 of our process is to explore your personality. For this step, you'll use the first 3 resources or pages in your download file. They are Big 5 Inventory, Big 5 Inventory Scoring Worksheet, Big 5 Explanation Characters Sheet. I'll explain more about the Big 5 in a little while. It may affect the results of your personality exploration if you know too much in advance, so trust me that it's okay to move forward despite the ambiguity. Let's start with the Big 5 Inventory Sheet. You'll see that this sheet contains 44 statements, each with a blank line in front of it. Actually, the statements are all endings to the beginning phrase, quote, "I see myself as someone who, ... Read each complete statement and then write a number from 1 to 5 in the blank space to indicate the extent to which you agree or disagree with the statement. For example, statement number 1 is, "I see myself as someone who is talkative." If you disagree strongly with that statement, place a 1 on the blank line. If you disagree a little, place a 2 on the line. 3 represents that you're neutral, 4 means you agree a little, and 5 means you agree strongly. Do this for all 44 statements. Go ahead and pause the video, and then start it up again after you've completed the entire sheet. Okay, now let's move on to the second sheet, the Big 5 Inventory Scoring Worksheet. We're going to use this worksheet to make sense of the answers you just gave to the 44 statements. Specifically, this worksheet will calculate a score for each of the Big 5 personality traits. First, transfer your answers to the 44 statements into the corresponding boxes on the worksheet. The statement numbers are below the boxes. For example, the trait of openness is assessed by your answers to questions 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 44, 35, and 41. So transfer your answers for those questions into the appropriate boxes in the openness section. Then, do the same for the other 4 personality traits. You'll find that there's an empty box for each of the 44 statements, and none of the statements will be used for more than 1 box. Now, for each of the personality traits, sum the numbers you entered into the boxes that are to the left of the minus sign, and then subtract the numbers you entered into the boxes that are to the right of the minus sign. Write the result in the big bolded box at the end of the row. That is your score for the personality trait. Finally, chart your score for each personality trait on the line graphs at the bottom of the worksheet. For example, if your score for openness is 18, place an X right in the middle of the horizontal line. If your score is 23, place your X halfway between the 18 and the 28 on the horizontal line. Do the same for each of the personality traits, noting that the range of possible scores, and therefore the midpoints, are different among the traits. An X at the far right of a personality trait graph indicates your personality is marked by a high level of ownership of that particular trait. Conversely, an X at the far left indicates your personality is marked by a very low level of ownership of that trait, which means you have a high level of ownership of that trait's opposite. Make note of your strongest personality traits and be sure to consider both the traits themselves and their opposites. Now that you have a sense of your Big Five strengths, it's probably time to understand what the Big Five is. The Big Five Factors of Personality is a theory that has been developed over the last 70 or so years by multiple researchers and psychologists. Some of the earliest and most impactful work was done by Ernest Tupes and Raymond Kristol in the 1950s, by J.M. Deegan in 1990, and by L.R. Goldberg in 1993. The Big Five traits, often known by their acronym OCEAN, are considered to be the core personality traits that drive human behavior. They form the basis of many personality tests that are used by human resources departments to assist in hiring and placement decisions. There are many variations of Big Five tests. The test I used here is one I got from the Fetzer Institute, but there are other free variations from other sources that are readily available online. The results from this test are far from perfect. First, they're based on your own self-assessment rather than on third-party feedback. Second, the scoring was based only on your absolute score within the range of possible scores, rather than on a comparison of where your score sits relative to your peers. Nonetheless, the results are directional, and they serve as a good starting point for the creation of your personal brand. Take some time to read the descriptions for each of the 5 traits. Undoubtedly, you'll find and read some things that are flattering, and you'll read some things that don't feel so good. Hopefully, you don't read anything that is hugely surprising. The goal is to narrow in on your real personality strengths, not uncover a whole new you. That's why I call this step exploring your personality instead of discovering your personality. Let's move on to step 2, analyze your leadership profile. This step is relevant whether you do or do not have a formal leadership role. We all have leadership characteristics, whether we utilize them to their fullest or not. It's inherent in the definition of a brand that some level of leadership is involved, and that's true for personal brands as well as corporate brands. The whole point of creating a personal brand is to set yourself up as a leader within some area of expertise, so it's entirely relevant to include leadership attributes in the formation of your personal brand. For this step, you'll use the 4th page in your resources file. It's titled Leader Readiness Assessment. This sheet lists 13 elements of the Retail Leadership Profile, a concept I created for my recently published book of the same name. Don't worry if you aren't employed in the retail world. The leadership profile applies to any environment. Read the description and the warning signs of all 13 elements. Then rate yourself as weak, average, strong, or great in each of the 13. Try to be as objective as possible, as over or underrating yourself will only distort the effectiveness of your personal brand. One way to keep your modesty in check is to spread these ratings evenly. In other words, limit yourself to only 3 or 4 of each assessment rating so that you end up with just 3 or 4 greats and 3 or 4 strongs. Pause the video and restart it when you have the Leader Readiness Assessment completed. Okay, we're getting close to the end of the process. Let's move on to step 3, determine your specialties. Specialties are a combination of your experiences, your preferences, and your reputation. This step is going to take some introspection on your part, and it may take a little while to complete. That's okay. Give it some good thought. The time will be worth it. Start with listing on the Personal Specialties worksheet up to 6 specific experiences you've had in your life or in your career. These experiences should be ones that have been particularly impactful and unique in their foundation of who you are. They may be roles you've held, special assignments you've had, extraordinary challenges you faced, or any other type of experience that's been instrumental in shaping you. The experiences are important because of the lessons you learned or the habits you formed. So in the column next to each experience, write the important lessons or habits learned. Remember to think of this in the context of how these experiences may have led to certain specialties you can be known for. Next, you'll fill out up to 6 preferences in the middle column of the Personal Specialties worksheet. Preferences are the tasks, responsibilities, projects, or assignments you tend to gravitate toward. These are undoubtedly things you like to do and feel successful doing. In the final column on the right, fill in up to 6 things that are at the heart of your reputation. Your reputation is how others think of you. So in this column, list things that others come to you for. This includes types of problems for which others seek your advice, tasks or projects for which others seek your help, and assignments for which others seek your involvement. Now, the hardest part of this step. In the bottom box, you'll write the recurring themes that cut across the boxes at the top of the sheet. These will be your specialties. You want to look for themes that show up in your experiences, your preferences, and your reputation. This may be tricky as the exact wording is likely to be different. You may have to think creatively to connect experiences with preferences and reputation. If you can find even one thing that you love to do, have a reputation for being good at, and have clear experiences that establishes your capabilities, you've defined a specialty. Pause the video while you complete this Personal Specialties worksheet. Restart the video when you've finished and with the worksheet and are ready to move on to the final step in the process of building your personal brand. We have arrived at steps 4 and 5, identifying recurring themes and building your personal brand commitment statement and axiom. For this last step, you'll use the Personal Branding Worksheet, the last page in your resource package. To start, you'll transfer your personality strengths, your leadership profile strengths, and your personal specialties into the top 3 boxes of the Personal Branding Worksheet. In other words, you'll combine the work you've done in the previous steps and on the previous worksheets into the top half of this final worksheet. This will give you a single view of the 3 components that will make up the foundation of your personal brand. Next, you'll use this single view to identify the common theme or themes that you can pull from these top 3 boxes on the worksheet. Look for strengths that are complementary to each other or connected to each other. This is similar to the exercise you did to select your personal specialties. For example, imagine your personality strength was extroversion, your leadership profile strengths were empathy and communication, and your personal specialties included team building and networking. These all seem complementary and interconnected, as they all revolve around the idea of understanding and working closely with others. Sometimes this step may take some creative thinking. Connections may not be immediately obvious, so it may require you to expand your thinking about the personality strengths, the leadership profile strengths, or personal specialties. Once you've identified a common theme to build your personal brand around, write it in the bottom left box of the Personal Branding Worksheet. This common theme will be the foundation for your personal brand. The box is big enough for you to jot down a few related thoughts. Think about specific on-the-job roles that might be most related to your theme. Going back to our example from a couple of minutes ago, team building and networking might be expanded to include the potentially related roles of business development, staffing, hiring, and collaborative problem solving. Finally, we move to the bottom middle box on the Personal Branding Worksheet. This is where you'll write your commitment statement, the real essence of your personal brand. The commitment statement always starts with a phrase, "When others interact with me, they can consistently expect ... This format ensures that your commitment statement will fit the definition of a personal brand, the promise of a particular experience others will have when they interact with you. In the example we've been using, a commitment statement might be something like, "When others interact with me, they can consistently expect that I will use my networking skills to build relationships that will effectively bring people together to solve problems." A personal branding axiom will turn the commitment statement into a memorable tagline. In our example, a possibility of an axiom might be, "More minds equals better solutions." This axiom will be the philosophy by which people will identify you. It will be your version of "just do it," and will tell all people that you are an expert at generating organizational collaboration. Well, congratulations, you've now defined a personal brand. No, this process didn't change the world for you, at least not yet. This was a journey in self-discovery. It helped you understand what you can be really successful at. Hopefully it gave you a renewed sense of confidence in the fact that you do have a lot of value to contribute. And it certainly gave you some well-defined commitments to live up to. But you've only started. Nike didn't become a great brand on the day they first said just do it. They became a great brand when they demonstrated over time a passion and excellence in delivering products that allowed consumers to live the just do it lifestyle. And so it will be with your personal brand. So I'll now talk about the keys to growing your brand. Growing your brand means building a real-life reputation that's consistent with the personal brand that you defined. The value of your brand is only as high as the consistency with which you actually live up to that brand. Therefore, you don't really have a personal brand at all until others can say that their experience with you is as you promised. And the more people who can say that, and the more strongly they feel it, the higher the value of your brand. I'll talk you through 6 pieces of advice that will help your personal brand to become stronger and more impactful over time. First, ride the wave of your strengths. A surfer can't do much with a small wave, and the surfer also can't do much to turn small waves into big waves. That's why surfers spend a good deal of time lying on their boards, watching and waiting for the really big waves to develop. In the same way, you'll serve yourself well by looking for opportunities to demonstrate the strengths that are at the core of your personal brand. Of course, on the job, you won't always have the freedom to avoid the small waves, but you can watch for the big ones and ensure that you get the best possible ride out of each one. Second, stay true to your brand. This means that you must avoid behaving in ways that are inconsistent with your brand commitments. In other words, if you have identified or defined a personal brand on the basis of being a tremendous relationship builder, getting into a feud with a coworker would be detrimental to that brand, even if you have a good reason to be angry. Third, always be climbing. To the next higher level, that is. Continuously look for ways to outdo yourself and take your brand to the next level. If others can consistently count on you to push yourself, your personal brand will be reinforced over and over again. Fourth, evolve your brand as needed. Over time, you'll need to update your personal brand. Your experiences will change, and perhaps you'll develop new skills or new specialties. Perhaps conditions will change and your brand will not be as relevant as it had been. Or it could be that you find yourself gravitating to different challenges. No matter what the cause, you should regularly revisit your personal brand and ensure that it's still relevant and it's still truly you. Fifth, let your actions speak loudest. If you consistently deliver in a way that's consistent with your personal brand and your brand is appropriately relevant, there's no doubt that others will take notice. I'm not suggesting that you should refrain from telling others about your brand. On the contrary, you should absolutely let others know what you're strongly committed to. I'm just saying that you don't need to continuously pat yourself on the back, as that will come across as self-centered. Remember that throughout this workshop, we've talked about personal brand being the value that you give to others. When you make it about yourself, you send a different message, and that message is not a good one. Sixth, be genuine. People will read right through you if you're not. This whole process has been about understanding who you really are and then staying true to that understanding. Don't try to be somebody you're not. When you understand yourself and become committed to being the best you possible, you'll add maximum value to those around you, and you'll find the happiest and most comfortable place for yourself at the same time. We've come to the end of the personal branding workshop. I hope it's been a great exercise in self-discovery, and I hope you now have something tangible that will enhance your effectiveness. If so, I encourage you to pass along this link to others who may benefit from the workshop. And I encourage you to visit my website where you'll find additional tools, including books and other video resources. Thank you, and best of luck in growing your brand.